Lauren, we need you. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to be the mission chair on the Committee of Colleges Against Cancer. We need you to help spread the mission of the American Cancer Society throughout campus and at Relay for Life.
Feedback for Lauren, and her strengths is that she's very organized. Her agenda is just marked up with all different sticky notes, and she has everything so organized and she knows exactly where everything is. She's very motivated and just ready to get the whole team going. She does get things done. She really takes charge when no one else wants to. She volunteers all the time to, do the projects and to do all that kind of stuff. What she can work on is maybe being more demanding. I know, she's very kind-hearted and she doesn't want to step on anybody's toes, but I think if she stands firm with whatever she thinks is correct, then she'd be really good at that. I think she'd also be good at maybe sharing her opinion more. If things don't really seem like a good idea, then instead of just kind of hiding it, maybe step up and say, hey, this is not going to work, I think we can do this better. But overall, she is a great leader, and I'm really proud to be led by her.
This leadership experience helped me to learn a lot of valuable lessons that I will be able to take with me and use in the future. The first of these lessons was patience. The previous leadership experiences that I've had, most of the people thought the same way and kind of had the same values and goals in completing the project. But this one took a lot of random people and put them together, which was a great experience for me in learning to keep my cool and just remain calm through all the tough parts, and that conflict in these types of situations can actually be helpful. Another lesson that I learned is the importance of explaining the reasons for your decisions. In my leadership experience in this particular club, I found out that people are more likely to understand where you're coming from and to go along with your ideas and support you if they know where you're getting your solutions and ideas from. And it just helps the team to understand each other and gel together so that way they can be more efficient. I also learned that it's important for a leader to be proactive and know what you're doing so that way you can effectively lead. You should always be the one to tell your employees what they should be doing, or at least explain the process to them. And they still need to be involved in your decision making and have the ability to be creative, but ultimately you are the one that makes the decisions. Something that I'm sure I'm going to have to learn over and over again until I get it right is that a leader's main job is guidance and execution. In my case, I tend to take on a lot of the work and pick up other people's slack instead of taking a more guiding role and just making sure that everybody follows through with what they're supposed to do. So this has been a really important experience for me in learning how to delegate and trusting that people will do what they say they will. Lastly, I learned that part of being a leader is being responsible for things when they go wrong, or maybe people don't want to be there anymore, or something like that. You can't just give up and pack it all in because something bad happens. It's your responsibility as a leader to try and fix it instead of walking away. This leadership experience was somewhat different from what I've experienced as a leader in the past, and because of that, my leadership philosophy has changed a lot. One of the things that I learned was to be a more of an inclusive leader rather than one who just tells people what to do. In the first tabling event that I put on by myself, I knew the way that I wanted it to go and what I wanted to get done. So the way that my leadership came across was me just telling people what to do and not necessarily explaining my decisions or asking for their input. So I felt like I was being really bossy. And I'm sure that the people that I was leading felt the same way. So in the next tabling event that I went to plan, I made sure that I asked people what they thought of the last one, that I took into account the differences in people's experience with tabling, and I asked them for ideas of activities that we could do to get people to come to our table so that we could tell them about Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society. So ultimately, it changed my leadership philosophy to be one of more of theory why, in that people actually do want to be at work and have creative ideas. I mean, as this was a volunteer experience, they weren't coming to get a grade or, to get some sort of pay or benefit from it. They really wanted to be there. So if you involve them, they are more likely to go along with what you're saying and want to participate more because they feel valued. So that was one of the things that I learned. Another way that my leadership philosophy has been changed is that a spirit of optimism is extremely important on all of the projects and tasks that you are trying to lead. In my tabling events and other events that we had to do for Colleges Against Cancer, there were just some times where I was having a bad day, or I didn't want to be there, or I didn't necessarily believe that our event was going to succeed because of other outside factors. And I'm sure that the people that I was volunteering with could tell that I wasn't completely 100% behind the event that we were doing. And it made it really difficult for me as a leader because, if you aren't bought into what you're doing or you don't believe that you can succeed, how are you supposed to help other people succeed? And how are you supposed to motivate them if you yourself aren't motivated? So, really, it became an important focus of my leadership philosophy because if you can't show others that you are excited to be there and going to give 100%, there's no point in leading them because they, yes, can think for themselves, but I believe that it's your responsibility as a leader to show up and be ready and prepared and willing to have a positive attitude so that your event actually does succeed. Something else that not having a positive attitude could affect would be the expectations of your staff. I mean, if you don't have a good attitude or don't want to be there, they're going to know that you don't expect that much out of the event and out of them. So they probably will give less. I mean, it of course depends on the people that you're working with and their values, but if I saw someone, maybe a manager or supervisor, that didn't want to be at work or thought that we were going to, not meet our goals that day, I probably wouldn't work as hard because I would know that they knew that we weren't going to meet our goals or succeed. So, I mean, why should I bother if there's no hope for the future, Um, so definitely having a positive attitude and always buying into what event you are, no matter what, if you're having a bad day or just don't like, what happened with planning the event, you need to show up and be positive for your staff because you are a role model and they are learning from you. A third way that my leadership philosophy has changed is on the importance of getting to know your staff or the people that you're leading before your project starts. I was kind of eager to start planning my events and prevention and education techniques for the American Cancer Society and Colleges Against Cancer. And so I kind of passed over the importance of actually getting to know the people that I was working with. And it took me a while to realize that the reason we weren't communicating effectively and that our events weren't going quite as planned is because that I didn't know how these people were motivated and how they liked to be led and recognized. A lot of the time I would just focus on what I wanted to be done and wouldn't pay attention to the way they were feeling. So it really changed my outlook on this point because I didn't know who I was leading, and so they didn't know me either, so why should they have accountability for getting stuff done? It's a lot easier to do a bad job or not do anything at all when you don't know the person because you don't know how they're going to be affected afterwards. And on that note, it's extremely important, as part of getting to know the people that you're leading, it's extremely important to find out how they like to be recognized. I didn't realize that to me, being recognized is meaningful when somebody says something, like you did a great job or thank you so much for helping out. That kind of moral satisfaction works for me, but it doesn't work for everybody else. Some people might want to be recognized with something tangible, like a Starbucks card or an actual award or something, or I don't know. But if you don't know who the people are, then how can you accurately thank them for doing a job well done or for going along with you maybe when the plan didn't seem that feasible? So that is definitely a huge part of my leadership philosophy now, is getting to know the people that you're working with and figuring out how they best like to be recognized, because really it's worth the time and energy that it takes to get to know someone, because your projects could be that much more of a success. However, in getting to know who you're leading, there's always that sort of balancing point where you don't want to let your friendship with these people get in the way of your ability to lead them. I think that a lot of the times I'm just so concerned with the group getting along, and somewhere along the lines that sacrifices group accountability and puts more work on me, because people think that I'm not going to hold them responsible for getting things done, and that if they don't finish something that I'll just pick up the slack. So I really have to be more conscious about what I'm saying when I'm leading, because a lot of the times I would be leading these people and helping them set up for education programs and things like that. And I would hear myself say, in having them get stuff done for our presentation, I would hear myself say, "Oh, that's all right if you can't do it. Don't worry about it." Or instead of telling them what to do, I would ask them and say, "So if you wouldn't mind doing this, that would be awesome." And of course, like, you don't want to be demanding and say, "This is what you have to do or else." But there is that balance between the two. Because when you give them room to say, like, it's okay if you don't get it done, that just means that they think that there's not a lot of consequences if they don't get it done. And there are. Even if there's no, like, variable that says we're completely going to fail if you don't get it done, or, some sort of grade or something like that, it still puts the work on somebody else. And as a leader, obviously you're responsible for the entire group, but that doesn't mean you should be doing the entire group's work. And so with that, it's important to get to know the people that you're working with so you can most effectively lead them and recognize them. But it's also extremely important to keep your position of authority and make sure that they know that they're going to be held responsible for what they need to get done. So, overall, this experience has really helped me to further develop my leadership philosophy and helped me gain experience in planning events with people that don't know each other already and that come from multiple different backgrounds and, philosophies on life.